story of the birth of Isaac. I remember how God told Abraham to go to another country. I remember how God had promised Abraham and Sarah that their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren would number more than the grains of sand by the edge of the sea, and as many as the number of stars in the sky. How God had promised Abraham that this new land, the land called Canaan, as far as Abraham could see, in every direction, would belong to Abraham's family, his children's children. Abraham grew very old, and so did Sarah. And still they had no children. Abraham was beginning to worry that God had forgotten his promise. But God had not forgotten. When Abraham was almost 100 years old, God appeared to him and said, "Abraham, you will be the father of many nations, and your wife Sarah the mother of nations." Abraham could not help but laugh and wonder, can a child be born to a man who is almost 100? Can Sarah, who is 90, have a child? Then one day, while Abraham was near the tent in the heat of the day, he saw 3 travelers coming toward him from across the desert. He had invited the travelers to stay and rest for a while, as that was common practice, to be welcoming to travelers in the desert. He asked Sarah to go and make bread for a feast, and he and the servant prepared meat for the feast. After the meal, one of the visitors told Abraham that in the spring Sarah would have a son. Sarah laughed to herself when she heard, for she knew it was not possible. She was too old to have a child. But in the spring, it was as God had promised. Sarah gave birth to a baby boy. They called him Isaac, which means someone laughs. I wonder why Abraham and Sarah named their child Isaac. I wonder if they wanted to always remember that with God, what seems possible may not be impossible. I wonder if Abraham ever doubted God again. I wonder if there were things that God did in Abraham and Sarah's life that seemed impossible, but then were not.